Hey everyone, it's Deja from CrochetEverAfter.com. Today we're going to do our newest motif of the month, and since Valentine's Day is coming up, I decided to make a little heart. You can use really any kind of yarn for this. This is made in worsted weight, and I used a 5.5 millimeter or a USI hook, but you can go up or down to make these bigger or smaller, so you can put these on sides of cards or on candy, tie a piece of candy to it for classmates, whatever you may want to do. But let's grab our hook in our yarn, and you can download the pattern below and we'll get started. To start our heart off, we're going to begin with a slip knot on our hook, and then we're going to chain 13. So you're just going to yarn over from back to front, turn your hook down so it'll slide easily through your chain, and repeat those steps and push your hook so that your loop rests on your shaft, and when it rests on your shaft it'll give you more even, consistent chain stitches. They'll all be the same size. So we're going to make 13 of these. And now we're ready to begin round 1. So the very first thing round 1 tells me to do is to single crochet 3 times in the second chain from our hook. So when we look at our chains, they look kind of like the letter V stacked on top of each other. So we want to go in the second V. So we have the one right next to our hook. We don't count the loop on our hook. We're going to the one next to the hook, so that's the first. And then this one's the second. And I'm going to work in just this back loop. So you have the front loop that's facing you and the back loop that's further away. So I'm going under just that back loop, and it'll make more sense when we come back around the opposite side of our foundation chain, because we're going to be working into the whole thing for this project. So I'm catching this one loop, I'm yarning over by laying my yarn right over the top of my hook, catching it and pulling it up, and then yarning over from back to front, turning my hook down, and my stitch will slide easily through. So I'm doing 3 in that same chain. So I'm going to go back into that big hole that I have here, and I'm going to do another single crochet and one more in there. This is cotton yarn, so it's a little bit more loose. It doesn't, it slides very easily, so it's very easy to get really big stitches. So make sure you're pulling, if you're using a cotton yarn, to pull with your tail to keep your loops the same size as your shaft so that you don't have a bunch of crazy up and down stitches. So after those 3 single crochets, now we're going to single crochet in each of the next 4 chains. So again, we're going to go in the back loop only, and I use my finger behind to help guide me just through that back loop. Yarn over, pull up your loop. Notice I'm keeping all of my loops on my shaft to keep them the same size. Pull through, and go into the next back loop. I have 2, I'm going to do 2 more. And now I am at the point of my heart. So those 3 single crochets at the very beginning, that's going to make the rounded part of my heart. Now I need to make the little V bottom of my heart. So to do that, I'm going to skip my next 2 chains. So that's going to create my bend of my heart. So I'm going to go into the 3rd chain and start single crocheting again. So I keep all my loops nice and tight so that I get a good bend to my heart. And I'm going to do just a single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next 3 chains. So that's just a mirror of what I did over here. I did 4 single crochets, now I'm going to do 4 single crochets on this side. That's going to leave me with 1 chain at the very end of my foundation chain. And what we're going to do in there is put 3 single crochets like we did at the very beginning. And that's going to allow us to turn our heart so that we can work in the back side of our foundation chain. So I'm putting my first single crochet in there. I'm going to go back into that same chain. And I'm going to just kind of crochet around this slip knot here. And I'm going to leave my tail out to weave in later. So I'm bringing my tail in front of the slip knot so I can make my turn. And now I'm on the back side of my foundation chain. So what we're going to do now is work into the loops that we didn't work in the foundation chain. But we're only going to grab one loop. We left two loops unworked. We left the bottom bump and the front loop. I could easily go around both loops if I wanted to, because it's very easy to just enter my hook in and do a single crochet without thinking about where I'm putting my hook. The only problem is I get big holes when I do that. So if you want some holes, let me show you. I'll do a couple of them so you can see what the holes will look like. If I just stick my hook wherever I want to make my 4 single crochets across the back, I'm going to get some big holes like that in the middle of my heart. If you'd like the holes, then go ahead and do that. If you don't want holes, you're going to want to work in just one loop, which is technically the front loop of your foundation chain. So you can see how these kind of come over the top. They kind of just raise right over the ridge. We're going to go under just one of those loops. So we're going to go under that very first one we come to, and we're going to single crochet around it. Then we're going to come to the next one that's coming over the top and single crochet around that. We're doing 4 of these because we want to do 4 single crochets across the opposite side of our foundation chain. Again, you can see it coming right across the top here. We're just going to go under that loop. So we have 3, and there's 1 more. So 1 more right across the top. And if we have placed our hook correctly, we should be right at our chain 2. So you can see that my chain 2 are the next 2 stitches I've come to. So I've got my hook in the right place. And you'll see that my holes are not as gaping now because I have my bottom bump going across the middle of where those holes were. Now we're going to accentuate the point of our heart. So we're going to single crochet right into that chain 2 space. It's a nice big hole. Make sure you go all the way around the chain. Don't catch any loops. And we're going to single crochet once for that side of our heart, and then we're going to chain 3. That's going to make another point for us for our heart, and then we're going to go back into that chain 2 spot, that huge space, and do a single crochet to begin the next side of our heart. So that chain 3 is going to give us a nice pointy end for our heart. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did on the other side. We're going to single crochet into those 4 front loops of our foundation chain. Sometimes they get a little pulled out. So you can also count backwards if it's hard for you to see them at the very beginning. So we have 1 right here. So we're going to go right into the back side. Single crochet there. Go into the next one. Single crochet there. Number 3 here. And number 4. You should have what looks like another one, but it's a little bit smaller than normal. That's just the end of your round. We're not going to join the round, we're going to work in a spiral, but you can see the beginning of our heart. So we're going to work on round 2 now. Okay, so for round 2, we're not joining any rounds. Remember, we're just going to work in a spiral. We're going to single crochet 2 times in our next 3 stitches. But where is our stitch exactly? Look for your V's. So if you're looking for your V's, you can see that the very first V is formed right here. So it's a little bit a ways from where we ended. That's normal. You didn't miss any stitches. Sometimes beginners will start putting their hook in different spots because they think they need to get closer to it. But you'll see once we put our hook underneath this V, because we're going under both loops, use your fingernail to help you if it's hard to get under it. When we pull up our loop and do our single crochet, everything joins together nicely. It all comes back to it. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in that stitch. So I have 1, I'm going to go right back in that same hole under both loops of my V and do another one. Now I'm going to do 2 in my next stitch. And this is giving me the ability to turn my corner, or my big round part of my heart, Now I'm going to do 2 in the next stitch. So this gives me a nice rounded edge. Now we're going to start making the center of our heart again. So we're going to do single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches we come to. So we go under both loops, yarn over and pull up. We're going to do 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. And now we're going to create our little bend again. So to do that, we need to skip the next 2 stitches just like we did in the previous round. So I'm skipping the next 2, and then I'm going to go under that 3rd stitch. So if you have trouble looking at the front of your stitches to find where to go, you can also turn your work sideways and look at your V. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So put my hook right under that 3rd one. Remember, keep your loops nice and tight so the bend in your heart will stay nice and bent and not create a big hole in the middle of it. Then I'm going to do same as the other side. I had 3, so I need to do 3 single crochets on this side. So I already did my first. Here's my second and my third. Now we're back at our rounded edge. So we're going to increase again just like we did at the other edge. We're going to do 2 in each of the next 3 stitches. So we have 1 and 2. Then I go to my next stitch and do 2. And my last stitch to do 2. And here we are on the back side of our heart again. So this time, instead of 4, we have 5 stitches that we need to work to till we get to our corner. So we're going to do a single crochet in each of these 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're back at our corner again, and we're going to do the same thing that we did in the previous round. We're going to single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet. So go under that big open gap, do your first single crochet, then chain 3, and then go on the other side of that big gap and do your other single crochet. Now we're just going to copy what we did on the other side. We're going to do single crochets into the next 5 stitches again, which is going to leave us right at the end of our round 2. Then we only have 1 more round to go, and this guy is done. This one meets up a lot easier than the first round did. You'll see that you're right at that first stitch now, so it's a lot easier to see where to put your hook next. Okay, so for our final round, we need to make our round again, or we need to go around the bump on our heart again. We can't increase in every single stitch, otherwise we'll get kind of a ruffly edge. So we're going to increase in every other stitch. So that means we're going to single crochet 2 times in the next stitch we come to. And then we're going to single crochet just once in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times. And that will get us all the way around our rounded edge. So just remember, increase or single crochet 2 times and then single crochet 1 time. So we have a nice pretty rounded edge now. Okay, now we're just going to do 2 single crochets, 1 in each of these next 2 stitches, so we can skip a couple stitches to make our bend in our heart again. Just move them out of the way if they're getting in the way. So now we have those 2 stitches that we're going to skip, and we're going to work in that 3rd stitch again, and we're going to work 1 more single crochet after that because we want to match what we did on the other side. Then we're going to make our round again, so we got to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the stitch after, and then repeat that again 2 more times. So you see that this heart works up really quickly, and it's a pretty easy pattern to kind of memorize once you've done it once or twice. So you can make lots of these for all your friends. You put them in cards. They probably glue really well. You can use smaller yarn and smaller hooks. Okay, so we finished our increasing. Now we're at the bottom half of our heart. So the next thing we're going to do is single crochet in these 6 stitches. Where we had 5 last time and 4 the time before that. So this time we have 6 that we need to go into. Just keeps getting bigger by 1 every single round. So once we hit those 6, we're back at that pointy bottom of our heart. So we want to make it again. So we're going to single crochet in that chain 3 space. Do 1 more chain 3, our last one. And then single crochet back in there. Then again 6 more and we'll be done with our heart. We're going to join it up when we get to the end of the 6 here. We have 5 and 6. So we're going to join with a slip stitch to that very first single crochet. So here's our first single crochet of the round. I'm going to put my hook under it, grab a loop, pull it through, and then pull it through the loop on my hook. Tighten it down a little bit. Then I'm going to fasten it off, so I just make a chain and I pull it long. Cut my loop. And I'm going to weave in my ends, but this is the gist of our heart so far. And you can see with the cotton yarn, you get more of a lacy type effect. And you can see where our bottom bump kind of crisscrosses here in the center. Let me show you this. Oops, this pink one that I did in acrylic. You can see it's a lot more filled in. It's not as lacy. It's also a little bit smaller because the cotton has a tendency to be a little bit more drapey, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So you can see the difference in types of yarn. So you might want to consider that before you start the project. Acrylic if you want more stable, stiff project. Cotton if you want more flexibility to it or a more lacy effect. So let me weave in these ends and we'll take a look at the finished product. I'm going to show you how I weave in the cotton. I usually will use a plastic needle for cotton because cotton's so slippery. I even usually like to use plastic crochet hooks for cotton, but I had my clover on hand, so I used that. But the plastic will help, it just makes it a little bit tighter. It's easier to work with the cotton yarn with the plastic needle. It doesn't slide off of the eye as easily if I was using a metal needle. But for weaving in my heart, I'm just going to go through all the places where my stitches are thickest. You can get between plies, that'll make it even more secure. So if your ply, which is the twist in your yarn here, if you go through it, don't worry, that actually helps secure it. But you want to go for a couple of inches at least, if not more, depending on your patience level. Mine never really quite makes it past 2 or 3 inches before I want to cut it and move on to the next tail. But I'm staying on the wrong side of my work just in case I make a mistake or it peeks through a little bit. You can tell the wrong side from the right side by how the stitches look. So if you look here, you can see these 2 little tails, and those are a single crochet stitch. When you look on the back side, it kind of looks like 2 with a little top on it, almost like a pi symbol. So the right side has just the 2 tails, the wrong side has the 2 with the top hat. I don't know why I just called it a top hat, but that just popped into my head, so that's what I'm sticking with. So just weave in your ends as best you can, and then cut them and kind of pull as you weave so that it gets in there nice and slack, so that it doesn't ricochet back when you cut it. If you keep pulling really tight as you weave, when you cut it, it's gonna snake back to wherever it wants to lay flat, and it might poke out. So let me weave in both these ends and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, here are the hearts all weaved in and finished. And you can even, make them in different sizes. If you change your hook size by just 1 size going up or down, you can get staggering heart sizes, so you can place them inside of each other if you have two different colors like this. So if you have any questions, leave them below, but thank you for watching.